Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled The PSYOPS of Music. Alright, I never considered myself an expert on the music industry, but I do now. I mean, I played the trumpet, I learned to read music, I wrote some of my own music. I got braces, so that's why I stopped playing music. But I was the number two trumpet player for the Catholic Youth Orchestra out of 75 trumpet players, and I was the number two seat. And the fellow that was numero uno was 2.5 years older than me, so he was the senior guy. Anyway, whenever I do a music video and I reveal some ugly truths, of course I do get punked that I don't know what I'm talking about. That's standard for me, people. When I say that they all dope in sports, and I mean all sports, not just Olympic sports, but even badminton. I guess badminton is an Olympic sport, but it's not just football or cycling or baseball. It's hockey, it's everything. But whenever I say that they're all doping, people say I live in the basement of my mother's house and I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. Here's the thing, I do know what I'm talking about and I can back it up. And no, I'm not going to give you the secret file. Go do your own research. All right? Well, the biggest psychops on the world, besides worshiping athletes that are entertainment, they're there to pacify and waste your time. If you're really interested in sports, go do it. Go participate in sports by actively getting involved. But if you're going to be passive and just watch it as a form of entertainment, be quiet. Zip your lips. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. The knuckleheads who are talking about what's going on, they're lying to you, okay? They're concealing the truth. They're not going to talk about steroids and the officials, the referee and the umpires can fix the game. They're not going to tell you if someone's holding on to the mirror at the Tour de France and getting a free ride from the car. They're not going to mention that. That's going on off camera. There's all kinds of things that go on off camera. It's a show, okay? It's a show. Please don't take things too seriously. But the biggest punk MK Ultra fraud is the music industry, because we all grew up with music, and music is really important in our world, in our society. It can soothe the soul. It can make you feel good when you feel bad. All right? So music is very important, and of course it has to have the Rothschild family and the Jewish people involved in manufacturing and producing it like it's a pig slaughterhouse. And we make music, popular music is made the exact same way that we slaughter pigs for bacon, which is that nobody knows who did what. Here, I'm telling you, Carol King, whose real name is Carol Klein, she did not write her music. Those are not her songs, okay? She was selected for duty. She was part of a songwriting team, but mostly she was a pregnant 17-year-old little girl desperate to find her way. And RCA and Don Kirshner saved her, okay? And Neil Sedaka is responsible for Carole King's success. Don Kirshner. Don Kirshner and Neil Sedaka. All right, so looking back at my life, I've seen more musical groups live than I thought. I've seen the symphony in the city of Oakland. I've seen the San Francisco Symphony. I've been to the San Francisco Opera many times. I've seen Opera in the Park, which is in September, which celebrates the opening of the new opera season in the city of San Francisco. That's held at Sharon Meadow, which is named after a banker, a San Francisco banker, who also, I believe, was the governor of Nevada at one time. William Sharon, I believe is his name. Anyway, today they renamed it Robin Williams Meadow, which is interesting because Robin Williams was a CIA socially engineered comedian from Tiburon, Marin County. CIA Marin County, and Robin Williams, who was garroted, he was garroted to death in 2015, I believe. He has a meadow named after a banker, renamed after him. Of course, he's dead, so it doesn't matter, right? Just like Bill Graham has the Civic Auditorium in San Francisco, across the street from where Harvey Milk and George Moscone were murdered. Right across the street is the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium, even though his real name is Wolf Grajonka. Isn't that interesting? We have a Jew from the Bronx, New York, who has his name on a civic auditorium in San Francisco under a pseudonym, CIA cover name. It's not even his real name. That's how ridiculous the stories are on my channel. There was no Manson family, there was no Charlie Manson, and yet everyone believes that there was, even though there wasn't. There was no Bill Graham. There was a Wolf Grajonka, a Jewish guy from Berlin, New York, vis-a-vis Lyon, Marseille, New York, the Bronx, San Francisco, and then was killed in Sonoma County on his way home to Marin County at Corte Madera at 800 Corte Madera Drive on a cul-de-sac at the dead end, the last home on a cul-de-sac. Yeah, Bill Graham. Murdered at a United States Navy radio weaponry facility at Sonoma Creek on Highway Route 37. Coming back from a Huey Lewis concert. Anyway, besides seeing the symphony and the opera, I saw Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass the same year that Sharon Tate was murdered, 1969. I saw Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Then later I saw Montrose with Sammy Hagar. I saw Journey before Steve Perry had joined the group. I think I saw Journey in 1975. I saw Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. That's a concert that I would not recommend. I mean, that was the worst performance ever, and I felt like I had a detox for 2 weeks because of all the smoke inhalation of marijuana and cigarette smoking that was going on there. I was also offered LSD at every Bill Graham Presents concert I ever attended, and I did attend many Bill Graham Presents concerts, and I was supposed to see Led Zeppelin, but they got arrested by the Oakland Alameda County Sheriff's Department, and so they were in jail for my Sunday show, so I got a refund instead. Got my tickets refunded. I saw the Beach Boys. They played with Chicago, which used to be called The Big Thing, Chicago. I love the big bands that have horn sections. I saw Duran Duran in London, England, in Green Park. I saw Van Halen at the Cow Palace, 1981, at their zenith. I don't think they were ever better than when I saw them. They were all the groups I'm mentioning. The shows were very good, except for the Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead, I don't get it. I don't understand why anyone would go to a Grateful Dead concert. I just don't get it, unless they're to sell LSD and get you stoned. That's the only reason to go to a Grateful Dead concert. It's kettle drums, it's melodic, there's not a lot of singing, there's not a lot of dancing. I think mostly it's falling down drunk and or stoned. Anne Murray, I saw her in Las Vegas. She sings the Snowbird song, the Canadian Snowbird song. I saw the Legends show at the Hilton Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas, where I saw James Brown, Cher, and Elvis. And I saw an Elvis impersonator that was amazing. I mean, there are many great Elvis impersonators, but to get on the Legends show, you really have to be world class, upper 0.5%. This guy was great. And we spoke after the show as well. He was great off stage too. I also, in Las Vegas, I saw Smokey Robinson. I saw Kenny Rogers. I saw the Four Tops in San Francisco. I saw Tower of Power in Oakland. I saw Big Bang Beat in Piedmont, Oakland, California. I saw them when they were Zazu Pitts Memorial Orchestra. Saw them in Oakland also. I saw Buddy Rich and his band at Disneyland. I saw Count Basie's orchestra at Disneyland. I went to the NBC Tonight Show and I saw the NBC Show Orchestra, the Tonight Show Orchestra, which I refer to as the Doc Severinsen Orchestra. I met Doc Severinsen. Let me tell you that Doc Severinsen band was off the chart great. They're the highlight of the Tonight Show. You don't see that if you watch the show on television. You don't watch commercials when you're there live. You watch Doc Severinsen's band, and you don't. It's riveting. They'll blow you away. That was the number one thing about the Johnny Carson Tonight Show, was the Doc Severinsen band was the star of that show, not Johnny Carson. And I met Johnny Carson, and I love Johnny Carson, but unfortunately the show that I attended was a dud. It was the day after the Princess Diana and Prince Charles wedding, which that was on a Wednesday, and I went to the Thursday show the next day, and his entire monologue was about the royal wedding. It was a complete and utter flop. And when we broke to commercial, Johnny Carson apologized to the audience. I was in the front row. I had a VIP seat in the front, and Johnny Carson, he couldn't have been less funny. Okay, so really it was a bomb of a show, except for Doc Severinsen, who saved it for the people in the audience. Doc Severinsen, or known as the NBC Late Tonight Show Orchestra. I saw Los Lonely Boys in Sonoma County. Yeah, they were great. I've been to Showboat production in Chicago and Showboat production in San Francisco, and all the songs that in Showboat were written by Jewish songwriters, Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein II. And of course, I've listened to many songs that were written by Jewish songwriters, Ira Gershwin and his brother George Gershwin, who were neighbors of Jimmy Stewart and lived in the home that Rosemary Clooney moved into across the street from Peter Falk, Jack Benny, and Lucille Ball. They all lived on North Roxbury Drive below the Sharon Tate murder scene. Jewish writers George Gershwin and Ira Gershwin. I saw Natalie Cole, who's the daughter of King Cole, Nat King Cole's daughter, Natalie Cole, saw her. Saw Jimmy Buffett. Who else did I see? Well, I think you get the picture. Greg Kihn Band, I saw Greg Kihn. I saw the Moody Blues. I saw the Tubes on Halloween. Anyway, I'm just here to tell you that everybody did great. I'm giving everyone props, including Kenny Rogers, and I'm not a Kenny Rogers fan, but his show was fine. It was excellent. It was very professional. And I saw the Four Tops, and they were great. And Tower of Power, thumbs up, because I love them. I love Chicago. I love the Beach Boys. But here's the thing. Of all the bands that I just mentioned that I have personally seen and enjoyed, okay, they didn't write their music. None of these people wrote their music. Robert Lamb, I don't know that he wrote a single song for Chicago, but yet the media tells you he's the main songwriter for Chicago. I don't believe it. I don't believe Robert Lamb writes their music. I think that Columbia Records writes their music. They have a crew, a team. I don't think Paul McCartney writes the music for the Beatles. I think the Tavistock Institute writes the music for the Beatles. And Carole King, she didn't write her music, and her name is Klein. So get her name right. It's Klein. Anyway, what I'm telling you is that's how sausages are made. I still enjoyed the shows. I didn't, just because they didn't write their music, do you really feel like the symphony that the conductor writes the music? Of course not. He doesn't write Mozart. I'm not even sure Mozart wrote Mozart. Okay, for all I know, he had a team of songwriters too, right? He was in opera. Opera's about theater. It's all the world is a stage, right? Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is when you delve into the Wrecking Crew, professional musicians, when you delve into professional songwriters, like Howard Greenfield, who was the next door neighbor for Neil Sedaka, and probably wrote Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Because we know for a fact Carole King did not write Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow. She even admitted it on David Letterman's late night television show. So knock it off when you'd say the Tapestry album is all original content of Carole King. No, it's not. I doubt she wrote any songs on that album. Okay, just because the Hollywood tells you so, you do know that Hollywood lies, right? They lie all the time. I mean, they didn't say that Elvis wrote his music. They didn't say Dean Martin or Frank Sinatra wrote their music, right? But they did imply that the Beatles wrote their music, and they implied that that Van Halen wrote all their music, and they implied that Gene Simmons of Kiss wrote his music, and they've implied that all that Carole King writes her music. But I'm here to tell you that that is not the facts. The facts is you can't prove that, and you should always assume that the artist, the singer, did not write the music. Just assume that. You'll be right 99 to 100% of the time. You'll be correct. Because it is extremely unusual that someone would be able to get their original content put on an album without editing. Even if you presented your own music, it will be edited and the words will be changed for social engineering content. Because that's the point of marketing you. For example, over at YouTube, there's just hundreds of channels that Sharon Tate was a leader in fashion, and she was so mod and hip, when she's a 23, 24, 25-year-old little girl, and she's setting all these trends. You do realize that her wardrobe was selected by MGM, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Columbia Records / CBS Television. It's their wardrobe. It's not her wardrobe. Paul McCartney and John Lennon, they didn't wear their wardrobe. They wore what EMI told them to wear. EMI is owned by RCA and CBS. Yes, and Rolling Stones, they were at Decca Records, which is owned by RCA and CBS. In other words, even though the Beatles were with one record label, EMI, and the Rolling Stones were at Decca, they're owned by the same corporations who decide their wardrobe and decide how to market them. Don't you get it? They don't pick what homes they live in. They don't pick their clothes. They don't pick their concert tours. They are booked into venues that are corporate controlled. And they most certainly don't write their lyrics or perform the melodies. They are cover bands. Some of these artists could play their own instruments. Some could not. You do know that when I saw the Beach Boys, that there were other keyboard players and guitar players, rhythm guitar players, on the stage with them who were never introduced to me or the audience. So I always realized that when the Monkees went on tour, they had a backup group kind of behind them who was probably playing the music. But the thing is that so did the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys did too. If you look at their concerts in Washington, D.C. on 4th of July, they usually have 3 keyboard players and at least 2 drummers. They had Dennis Wilson, and then there was another drummer with another drum set. And you had Brian Wilson behind a baby grand piano, but then you had another keyboard artist out of view, and then one of the other Beach Boys was playing the keyboard. So that's 3 people playing the piano. What the heck is going on with the Beach Boys? So, what I'm trying to tell you is that your perception of these recording artists is mostly fraudulent. I mean, you don't understand who does what. And that includes who wrote the lyrics and who set the melodies and who scored it and in what order do they go in. Greg Kihn, band, he stopped halfway through his set and asked for a request. And I was standing right in front of him. That's where my seat was, right below where he was standing. And I said to him, Madison Avenue Man, which was my favorite Greg Kihn song. And he looked right at me and he said, For Your Love, which is another song. I said, no, Madison Avenue Man. And he went, okay, For Your Love. And then I looked on the stage and he had his song sheet and the next song was For Your Love. So he asked for requests, but he didn't take requests. I lost all my respect for Greg Kihn when he looked at me and misinterpreted what I said, deliberately on purpose. He pretended that I requested the song that he intended to play next anyway. So now I wonder if Greg Kihn even knows the words to his song. He probably forgot the words to Madison Avenue Man, and therefore he cannot sing it. Did you get it? It's show business. Emphasis on the word show, meaning fake, and business, meaning collecting your money because you believe in something that's not true. Look, I like the music, I enjoyed it, but let's get away from the idea that these artists are creating their own content. Like my channel is creating its own content. My channel is very different than the Beatles. It's very different than the Rolling Stones. It's very different than Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. It's very different than the Tubes, and God forbid, Gene Simmons from Israel and Kiss. My channel is the antidote for that poppycock. And Van Halen, and Chicago are great examples. They produced most of their hit songs after they signed their record contract. They're cover bands. They're cover bands. They play other people's music. And when you're at the Whiskey A Go-Go and you don't have a record deal yet, you do cover the hits of the day, because that's what the dancers and the crowds want. They don't know your hits. They don't know your original content because they haven't been programmed to like it on the radio. But once you get radio time, your songs become instantly popular. It's part of the MK Ultra predictive programming. It's predictive programming. That's what goes into making the hits, along with Sharon Tate's wardrobe. That's why these record companies take 99% of all the money, because they provide the musicians, the songwriters, the wardrobe, the marketing. They control the radio frequency. They own the business. And all you do is provide, you're a slave in their system. You get a free house and you do what you're told. And so long as you follow your Admiralty law rules, which is that you obey, and you don't deny that you write your songs. You agree that you write your songs, even though you don't write your songs. That's why Terry Kath got whacked. That's why some of these musical artists get killed. Madonna is a complete creation. She's no different than Britney Spears. Look, I do consider Carol Klein above Madonna because Carol Klein worked on a songwriting team in the Brill building for RCA. Madonna worked in the music building, which is 69 recording studios in a 12-story building 1 mile away from the Brill building. So Madonna was created in a sausage factory that works for Warner Brothers. And Carol Klein was created in a business building that worked for RCA Victor and Columbia Records, because they created Paul Simon and he went to Columbia Records, and they created the Monkees, and they created Neil Diamond and Neil Sedaka. They did that in the Brill building. And Madonna was created along with Billy Idol and Interpol and some other fake bands. Okay? So don't get mad at me. I'm the messenger. I'm just giving the message. You could do your own research, but I know that if you love Madonna and you love Carole King and Tapestry, you're not. I know for a fact you won't do your research because you don't want to know the truth is that they are fraudulent. They're not who you think they are. They seem like nice people. Carole King's been married and divorced 3 times, okay? So, I think one of her husbands died. So she's been married 3 times and divorced twice, and I think one of the husbands died. So let's get our facts straight. But she didn't write her music. It's not my fault. I didn't cause that to happen. It's the music industry. Blame the music industry. Blame the Jewish people who control the music industry, because they did it. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.